You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have another show lineup for y'all. Man, today we have a true honor talking to a 12-time national champion, heavyweight boxer, and resilient keynote speaker. His name is Cam F. Awesome. If you're watching us online, we will have a ticker tape for all information and also in our show notes. But let's get right to it. When it comes to this guy, he's not just a man who turned challenges into championships, 12-time national boxing champion, by the way, like I said earlier, but also a 3-time Olympic trials champion. From a former captain of the USA national boxing team, he started as a bullied kid who found confidence through boxing. I don't want to take too much more time. I won't get him into the show and say, I know, Cam, you have a busy schedule. So first of all, thank you for spending some time with us today, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Now, I know I did a short introduction, but I want you to be the star of this show. So for our audience, man, what inspired you to get into boxing, and how did you see yourself being so successful with the time that you had with it?
So I got into boxing to help with my confidence. I was dealing with bullying, and I thought if I joined the free boxing gym, that if I look like a boxer, people would leave me alone. I didn't actually want to fight. But when I got down to the gym, my thought was the faster and harder I worked out, the faster it'll happen. So I was motivated by fear. I was 16 years old, and I was working out really hard because I thought that would help protect me. And that's why I originally joined the gym. And I did everything that many of the other boxers didn't want to do. I was like working out hard. I was showing up on time every day. I was consistent. And I basically outworked all the talented people in the gym. And the coach was like, hey, you're in such good shape. I think you're ready to spar. And I'm still very afraid of confrontation. Even though I have this experience doing the workouts, I developed a very defensive style where I was just afraid to get hit. So I did like 95% defense, and I would throw the occasional punch. And my senior year, so I was boxing for about a year. My senior year of high school, my parents moved from New York to Florida. And it would have been devastating for me, but I saw it in a different way. I was this awkward, unconfident person in New York. And even though I was working out and I was in better shape, everyone still saw me as that. And when I moved to Florida, I could just become whoever I wanted. So I just pretended I was this really charming, funny, outgoing guy. And everyone in Florida believed it. The problem was my boxing gym was 6 miles away from my high school. So this is before, iPods were out, but they were too expensive. So I was just walking without music, and I would make up stories in my head. And it's not that I thought I was this visionary. If I was going to make up stories, I was also going to be the superhero in all of my stories. And I made up these stories about I was beating everyone up. I was knocking everyone out. Everybody was afraid of me. I had all the money, all the cars, all the jewelry. None of this was true. But there's a direct correlation between how highly I spoke about myself and how well I did in the gym that evening. And anytime I got scared to get into the ring, I would just tell myself these stories about how great I was. And it would always work out. And for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, walking to the gym, I was just patting myself on the back, telling myself how amazing I was. And I told myself this story about how much I was a winner. And I don't know how it happened, but within 2 years, I became the #1 heavyweight in the country. It was just that positive self-talk.
That's a powerful story, man, because let me get this straight. You walked how many miles? I want people to get a picture of this. 6 miles.
6.4 miles.
Wow. And this is before the championships, man. This is why we do this show, because a lot of times some people feel like, oh, well, this person just got lucky, or, they just got some good genes, or, they hit the lottery ticket. But wow, 6 miles, that's dedication before you even enjoy the success treasure, if you will. I want you to just talk about how did you train your mind like you did in preparation for the ring, inside the ring, because that has to take not just commitment, but you have to have some stability and knowing that you have to be dedicated to do that. That's not just something like you just wake up and you wing it. That's something where rain or shine, you're going to push yourself no matter what.
Yeah, I told myself stories about how I was going to win, but I also put myself in strategic situations. So I learned the scoring system in boxing. If you hit me, you get a point. If I hit you, I get a point. If you don't hit me, you can't win. So even though I was a smaller guy, I fought in the biggest weight class there was, super heavyweight, because if they hit me, they'll kill me. But chances are I'm really good at defense. They'll miss. They'll eventually get really tired. And then I score a couple points and win. That was my whole strategy. And the reason why I took on the strategy is when I was 17 years old, my buddy, we were at a boxing match and I knew his opponent, and his opponent wasn't that good, but he was intimidating. He had tattoos at 16 years old. That's scary for, like, if you're 16 and you're fighting a dude with tattoos, it's a little iffy. And I saw my buddy get so scared that he was fighting a dude with tattoos that he psyched himself all out and lost the fight. I saw it in front of me, bro. And I was like, oh, it's a reality thing. In your reality, you don't think in your reality, your reality, you can beat someone like him. And I saw the power of my mind. And I was fighting a dude with big muscles, and he was huge that day. And everyone was so afraid for me. But I had sparred this guy a bunch, and I know I'm way better than him. He gets tired in 30 seconds. I'm going to be okay. And I played it up because I knew in my mind something no one else knew. I was better than this guy, and the muscles didn't matter. The reason why this guy was good is because everyone was just afraid of his muscles. And they told themselves a story that they weren't supposed to win. This dude knew what was up. We sparred before. He knows I'm going to win. He's already telling himself a story. I can't let external reality change my internal dialogue.
That's good. I like that, because a lot of times we do react to whether it's just in general life or, sport or whatever. We allow things externally to affect the inner man. And I had people on the show who talk about that, where it's that development of the inner man and making sure that you're not letting that inner voice kind of mess up the flow of what your plans are, or at least your goals are. So that'll be my follow-up question. How were you able to not just watch what you were thinking, but also how were you able to catch those negative thoughts and address it to where, hey, we're all human. We're not like Superman out there or Superwoman out there where we're just like and not afraid of anything. Everyone has their weak moments. So how were you able to address those and, if not, recover? Because you have a lot of parts in your stories of peaks and valleys.
Yeah. So, and this is something that I'm very unique in my way of thinking, and it goes against the grain a lot of times. And I'm learning later on in life, I'm 36, where sometimes I think me just being me is actually self-sabotage, but that's something I'm like newly diagnosing. But in 2012, I got kicked off the Olympic team, and it was for a drug testing issue. I left the country and didn't tell them I was leaving the country. They showed up to give me a random drug test. I wasn't there. Missed drug test is a positive drug test. I was suspended for a positive drug test, even though I tested negative in the tournament I went to compete in. And when that happened, I got suspended for a drug testing issue, which to people, they just think, oh, he's doping, he's on steroids, he's on drugs. And I was so embarrassed, not just that my dream to go to the Olympics is over. It's like everyone who looked at me just looked at me like a drug addict or a steroid user. And I gained a lot of weight during my suspension, and it was hard for me I had to return to boxing because I have no other discernible skills. I put all my eggs in that basket, and I had to get back in shape, and I couldn't lose the weight. And I was just constantly beating myself up. I'm like, you fat loser. Like, what's your problem? You can't get it together. Your life is falling apart. And I realized during one of my sessions of beating myself up, there's a difference between me in 2012 and the me that was walking to the gym in high school. One of us liked me. And I based that off of the stories I told myself. Because when I told myself I was capable, I'm the best, I'm the winner, I knock everyone out, I walked like that. I carried myself like that. And I realized when you tell yourself something, it becomes true. And we hear that all the time. But even if you say, hey, I'm bad with technology, the second you run into an issue, you throw your hands in the air and walk away from it. But the person who thinks they're good at technology or they can figure it out, they Google it, they look it up, they figure it out. It's not that hard. If you started doing that on the iPhone 6, do you know where you would be knowledge-wise? But because you said you're bad at technology, you allowed yourself to be bad at technology. And maybe even if that's not right for 100% of things in life, even if it's right for 1% of things in life, in your life, how much could it alter if you change the way you think?
That's a great example because years ago I had a guy talk about, he was former Navy SEALs, and he talked about outdated systems. And when you're making updates to your computer or whatever, it's to help it run, right? It's to help it to function, especially security patches and whatnot. But to your point, if you're staying in the orbit of iPhone 6, you're missing out on a lot of new features that could be useful to you. And being stubborn or just not aware, awareness can also be a factor. Blind spots when you're not able to identify what's causing or contributing to the issue. Then before you know it, you're blaming everything on the outside versus, well, here's a hardcore question. Am I at all contributing to this problem? For you, were you able in those moments of failure, were you able to say, you know what, am I adding anything else to this issue that's making it worse? Because I can only imagine before you were able to bounce back, you had to have some kind of reflection.
Yeah, the reflection actually came accidentally. During my suspension, I lost a bet and had to be vegan for 28 days. And the diet entailed sobriety. It was the Engine 2 28-day challenge. And it was the first time during my suspension I was sober. And it allowed me to kind of change the cycle of the way I was thinking because it broke the pattern of what I was doing every day. And I realized so often we just try to on our way to success, we try to add new things. Yeah. But sometimes it's so easy to just remove something. And there's so many things in my life that I look back on, like, oh, I could have just removed that. I could just remove alcohol from my life, and my life would have probably been so much easier. Even if I didn't have an overt problem, but even if it changed my life for 1% better, even if it meant I got better sleep so I was less annoyed at work, even the money I saved. So I started removing things from my life. And one of those being certain people. Like, and it sounds weird, but I was in some ratchet group chats. And I wake up in the morning and I'm just hearing gossip and drama and just terrible stuff. And I'm like, oh, I have to remove that from my atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I stopped watching the news. I started unfollowing people on social media that I didn't feel like they were bringing joyful posts. I muted people that I couldn't technically unfollow because we all got those people. Like, we all got an aunt out there who you don't need to see her conspiracy theories every time you open up Instagram.
Yeah.
I always heard the term protecting your energy, but it always sounded like a woo-woo thing. But it was like, I started to be selective about who I let around me. And that's when things definitely changed for me.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Cam F. Awesome, 12-time national champion, heavyweight boxer, and resilience keynote speaker. Amazing portfolio, amazing testimony, amazing everything. I mean, this is something that I feel like people can listen to multiple times and learn something new. And I want to talk about one thing that feels very key to your story, and that's pain. Let's talk about pain. Because just think about what you said earlier in the conversation. It's like, I can't let go of this part of this whole interview, and that is your dedication to walk those miles. I just want to focus and zoom in on that part of life, because you weren't walking on pillows, man. Let's just be real. I mean, you gotta let us know. Weren't you a little bit tired at some times? Were there some days where you feel like, dang, man, I'm walking this long distance? Like, let's talk about, were there pain in those moments? Because I can't imagine that it was just like easy street and you was walking on pillows all the time.
No, it wasn't always easy. And this was Florida. It was 3 p.m. It was hot, man. And it was gruesome, and it was boring, and it was like, oh, I gotta, like, that feeling at work, you gotta clock in. And it's like, all right, school day's over, gotta clock in, do this 3-hour walk. And then when I get there, I gotta work out. But I saw that as, like, I would visualize it as me putting something in a piggy bank. And I was like, making these deposits. And I thought, the more deposits I made in that bank, when it came to fight time, he doesn't deserve to win. Anytime I get nervous in those times, that's when I start telling myself this story. If there was something I could do to deserve to win, would it be walk 6.4 miles, then work out, and then go running? Is he willing to do that?
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve to win. I deserve to win. And it sounds almost self-absorbed, but that is the type of energy you need to step into the ring with. Boxing is the greatest metaphor for life, because we're all dealing with battles every single day, whether it's with your coworkers, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with your children. But you have to bring a certain energy to make sure that you're not being walked over, and you're not letting someone else's reality overpower your reality, because you're worth it. You should be able to take up space.
I really like that, because when you think about the highlight reels that we see in our lives, and sports, it can be the highlights, top 10 plays we see on ESPN, or whatever sports channel you watch. We are in those moments, and from the person on the outside, sometimes that's all they see is those moments. but they don't see the reps. They don't see the practice. They don't see the hard part, the reality part where it's like you have to overcome whatever it is that's suggesting that you're not worthy of this. I like what you said about putting in the effort because it's not selfish. If you truly respect yourself, there comes a time where you are at the crossroads and you either choose the easy way or you choose the more difficult way. But the difficult way is not like bad choices. The difficult way is, like you said, it's the boring stuff. Like, man, why is he walking 6 miles? What do you think you are? Who do you think you are? What do you think you're really doing? But I like the analogy of making those deposits because I feel like what happens in your case, when you were in that ring, you were able to bring something out that no one else could touch or tap into. Because when we make those sacrifices, and that's the word I'm thinking of right now, when we're making those sacrifices, we're basically putting the will in the center, front center, versus our ego, versus what we want, for ourselves. Because I want to ask you this question to land the airplane. When you understand how much you were sacrificing, I can only imagine to this day, you're probably still making withdrawals from all those times, all those moments that you chose. I'm going to sacrifice this time because it's an investment for what I might need in the future.
Oh yeah. It was always the plan. I saw life. I always thought of myself as living to 120. It was 123 was the number, but I thought of it as like increments. So when I first won my first national championship in 2008, my goal was to get a TV show. I chose boxing not because I like it. I don't watch it unless my friend's fighting. I'll watch, but I don't really care for the sport that much. I love what it does for people's lives, but personally, I don't really watch. But I thought it was 2008. Everyone was getting their own reality shows, and I wanted to be a performer. And then 2012, I was doing all this boxing. I was traveling around the world, and I never got to perform. So my goal was to be a performer of some sort. And I used boxing to transition into a speaker and a comic. So for me, all of the work I put in was to get the accomplishments from boxing to leverage that for other things in life. The idea of athlete privilege, I saw it from an early age. If you have an associate's degree and I have a national championship, and we applied for the same marketing job. Yeah. If you have a bachelor's degree and I have 4 national championships. So after I had about 5 or 6 national championships, I understood that that was enough to be able to get me a career after sports. But my goal was the Olympics because with that, that's so much more of a powerful title. I was chasing titles to be able to make these withdrawals later in life. And I found myself going back to schools talking about bullying, the reason why I got involved in boxing in the first place. And I felt like that was my calling. And what I do now is I do stand-up comedy at schools. All of the jokes have morals and messages, and it's almost like a motivational humor. So not only am I able to use those withdrawals for myself, I now speak at schools and corporate audiences, and I'm able to share those lessons from those deposits I made way back in my career.
Return on investment is what I would say amazing, because it's like when you're thinking from the perspective that if not now, when? And I feel the unfortunate part is sometimes we can wait all our lives for a moment that we'll never see because we did not do what was necessary at that time, because we have a window of time. And if we are not living our dreams or doing the sacrifices, if you will, then those ideas, they just stay up here. And that's the unfortunate part. Those ideas, they don't ever leave. That's the sad part. But the boring part, showing up, doing your best, not being afraid of looking like a failure, find a way to crawl your way back, fight your way back. However, if you have one arm, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like I had someone recently on the show that said, no one's coming to save you. No one. And that's the beauty of life. Like, we're all trying to survive. Name one person that don't have any problems. They ain't living on earth. Because last time I checked, any address you have, or if you don't have an address, you're going through something. There's somebody who's going through something. And my last question for you will be, we all have our battles. Like you said earlier, we all fight in that ring of life. When you see how you've been able to leverage not just the sport, but also your story to be in front of all these platforms in such a way, part of it is giving back of your wisdom, but another way is to enjoy the fruits of your labor. My last question will be, if someone feels like they failed too many times and they feel like they fell short too many times, you knowing how it feels to be a champion, what would you tell that person that despite what they feel with their failure, that they still have to fight no matter what?
So if you feel like you lost a lot, cool, eat that. You can't go back in time. What did you learn from that L? I've got almost 400 wins in boxing, and everyone's like, oh, cool. That's like, I won more boxing matches than anybody else in the US. But what nobody pays attention to is my 39 losses. Think about how many losses 39 is. Think about how much losses 10. Think of a boxer with 10 losses. And most people would say, hey, you should stop after 10 losses. But imagine if I did. Would I have gotten to almost 400 wins? And each of those losses taught me something that I was like, oh, that's not happening to me again. And those losses contributed to all of those wins. So for the person who kind of feels like they've lost a lot and they failed a lot, good. You have all that experience. Don't act like you don't know what it's like to fail. You've done it before. You've survived so many things. You've survived a pandemic. Like, what's the story that we're telling ourselves? You should be telling yourself the same way I told myself the story of how great I am while I was walking to the gym. You should be telling yourself the story of, I've done this. I've accomplished that. I am this great. I survived a pandemic. This thing happened and I figured it out. Everything that's ever happened to you, you've figured it out. Every hole you've ever fallen, you climbed out. Why wouldn't you think you'll figure the next thing out? Also, that one thing that you were worried about that you figured out, if you didn't worry, the outcome would have probably been the same. So try just putting faith. That's where faith comes from. Putting faith, knowing that you're going to figure out the next thing, and tell yourself the story that you are. Because whichever story you tell yourself is going to manifest. You have that power.
That's good. That's good. That's a good spot to let this come down to a close. Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Cam F. Awesome, 12-time national champion, heavyweight boxer, and Resilience keynote speaker. Real fast, squeeze this in. What's the name of the book that you written for people that want to know about all the resources you have? How can they find this book too?
Becoming Awesome, How to Make Success Inevitable, and you can find it on Amazon. You can find me at camfawesome.com and at camfawesome.com, because I'm not famous enough for anyone to try to take my name.
Once again, true honor, true amazing story. Wow. Powerful, real, authentic, and much needed in today's culture. So once again, to our guest, Cam F. Awesome, always thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, man.